went to see The Little Mermaid, the new live action one, and you have seen the review of us reviewing it, but however we have actually not made that review yet, so you're getting this stuff after, because Little Mermaid of course is based on something, and I sort of went, yeah, we want to do that also. So first we're going to film the review of the other movies, and then we're going to do our review of The Little Mermaid, which you have already seen, so you know what's in it. I don't. Can you tell me, please? The Little Mermaid, of course, is a fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen, who was a Dane, and it's called Lille Havre in Danish. So there. I did that. Yes, high five. And there are a whole bunch of other versions out there, which I've all seen. Some of them I saw when it was a long time ago, and some of them are new to me, even though they're old. And there were enough of them that I had to make a spreadsheet. One of my issues with the Disney Little Mermaid, a bunch of these issues. One, I have to come clean and say, I am not a Disney child. I did not grow up with Disney. There was no Disney when I was a kid.
You weren't a Disney princess?
I was not a Disney princess because Disney... there was this period where Disney just didn't let us things go out, and it was before videotape, so you re-release in the cinema, and there wasn't any, and then I was too old. So seriously, nothing. There is not a single film I saw. Peanut Gallery saw one. But I saw Watership Down at the same time, because Mom wanted to go see Watership Down. So, no, none. So, and by the time Little Mermaid came around in 1989, I was grown up. I was not little princess no more. So, there's that.
We saw Dumbo. We saw The Jungle Book. Not in the movies, but we saw it on television, and we saw...
Way later.
Fantasia.
It's all 1990s. It's all later.
Oh. Yeah, could be true. Yeah.
We're just off camera talking about it, but I think I know the only Disney property, the only two Disney properties that I had any relationship to at all, and it's that much, is there was a 8mm reel of Peter Pan flying without sound, and there was a record of The Jungle Book, the music. That's it. And then later, once videotape came out, but that was by the time the Disney videotape came out is 1985 or later.
Yeah, and then we could only get it in the video rental stores, because you couldn't buy Disney on videotape, because it was the equivalent of $100 per tape.
Yeah.
It was completely and utterly unaffordable for normal families.
And in 1985, I'm 16. It's too late for being a Disney princess. It's too late. And 89, and Peanut Gallery tells me, because we were talking about it, that she saw The Little Mermaid, the original, in the cinema, and I was 20 at the time, 19, 20? No, I don't think so. I don't think I even went. So I saw it later. I did see it. I do know that I've seen it at some point, but anywhere from the mid-90s to sometime later I saw it. This is not my franchise as such. However, the thing is based on the story by Hans Christian Andersen, which was from 1837. 1837, that's a heck of a long time ago. Called the Lille Havre in Danish, the little, which is actually means the little mermaid, the little sea lady. And there were other renditions of it, and now that is a different story, because at least one of them was available when I was a little girl, and I was not a mermaid princess in that way, but I saw it and I loved it. So I have a bunch of older Little Mermaid filmings. Film versions, that's it. It's called a filming in Dutch, and when you make something into a film, it's called a filming. So now you know. For filming. Word of the day. Two of them I'd seen and two of them I hadn't seen. One of them is the Disney, so it's gonna come up. It's gonna come up. And the problem with the Disney story for me was that I already knew the story from either reading it or from any of the other film versions. And why does Disney need to improve on the original story? Why? Is it a lovely version to watch because it's pretty? Maybe. Is that good enough to mess up the story? No. Anyone who knows the original story is going to be upset about it. And I was upset, and Peanut Gallery was upset, and so what did they change? Because a lot of people think that the Disney mermaid is the only mermaid. It is the only way to do this story. And the original story, I'll just have to go through it. It was written in 1837. 1837. That is nearly 200 years ago now, and it was 152 years before the Disney mermaid. It tells the story of a mermaid from a Danish perspective, so he doesn't really have to explain that mermaids on the whole in Northern Europe are harbinger of disaster and storms and stuff like that. It's actually a lovely story to read or listen to. There's a nice version of it on YouTube, somebody reading it aloud, and it's a beautiful story because it's very visual. He describes the underwater world and the sisters, because she has sisters, and the sisters, each one in turn, get a chance to go up top and look at the human world, and then he describes the human world as seen by the sisters. And then after a while she gets a chance to do that also. And it's very beautiful, and there's a lot in there that you can just basically take the story and just plunk it onto film, and it'll be a wonderful film. So there's no need to change it, except there's an except. Once the mermaid finds out about humans, she asks the grandma, and the grandma tells her, well, as mermaids we live for 300 years and then we turn into sea foam. That's it. But humans, they live only 100 years and then they ascend to heaven. And the mermaid is endlessly fascinated by the whole thing. One of the things that he says in the story is that she is thoughtful and quiet, and she thinks about things, and which is actually not very good for a movie to show, but okay, she is because vivacious and outgoing is much easier to show, so that's what they went for in the film, is vivacious and outgoing. She's endlessly fascinated with this human thing, and then ascending and a soul, because as a creature of the sea, mermaids do not have a soul. That's why they don't ascend to heaven, because they don't have a soul. And she's fascinated with the idea of a soul of that before she even sees the prince. Then she's also fascinated with the idea of the prince, but she has this duality going on. And so when she goes to the sea witch to ask for legs, it is to become human, to get a soul. So it is a dual thing. She will get legs, and there will be conditions, because the sea witch gives a lot of conditions. The condition is that in order for her to attain the soul, she must try and find a love, and they must marry her, because it's 1837. It's married love here. It is 1837. And Denmark is a very, especially at that time, a very northern Christian country. So Protestant, Christian, and souls are very important. So marriage also very important. Married, she can marry him, and then she will attain a soul. However, there are some bunch of howevers. One, she must the help of the witch comes with a price that she must pay, conditions she must meet, and then she will get a soul if she does all of these things. So the conditions are that she must get him to marry her, but even if she can't, she must make sure that he doesn't marry somebody else. If he marries somebody else, it'll be over instantly. Until that time, she can keep trying. There's no time limit on the rest of it. However, with her legs, she will get the ability to walk, but it will hurt. And that is something that Disney is not going to do, because they're not going to do the second. They don't do the ending, and that's frustration here. frustration. She gets her legs, makes the deal with the witch. The witch is neutral, basically. She's neither good nor bad. She has a price. The price is the voice. It's non-refundable, by the way. She gives up her voice, and if you think about it, one of the things that mermaids lore, northern mermaids lore has, is that they are sirens. They sing you to your doom. As a human being, she cannot have a mermaid's voice. So giving up her voice is not a punishment or anything like that. It is a natural progression. A human does not have a mermaid's voice, therefore she has to give up her voice. And she has to give up all of it is because the idea of the story certainly is that anything that is worth having is worth giving something up for. So I think that's why. So once she has her legs, she goes on land and she goes find the prince, and she does find the prince, and he takes her up as a companion of sorts for a while, but he can't forget the girl who rescued him earlier in the story, which was the mermaid, but he thought it was the girl who picked him up off the beach, which was a young lady which got spirited away straight away. It's kind of annoying, and he likes this mermaid girl. He doesn't know that she's the mermaid, and this nameless girl, but he thinks about the other girl. And in the end, the other girl shows up, and he chooses her over our girl, leaving our girl. She doesn't get her man. What's going to happen next? If he's going to marry somebody else, she's going to turn into sea foam. And then her mermaid sisters come and say, well, we have made a deal with the witch for a price, because the witches never does anything without a price, which was their hair of all the 5 other sisters. I think she had 5 other sisters. they gave up their beautiful hair, which was important to them. Being soulless creatures, giving up anything is already surprising. So it's surprising in as such. They gave up their beautiful hair for their sister in exchange for a dagger with instructions, because anything the sea witch gives is with conditions and instructions that must be met or it doesn't work. And the price which the sisters paid. The conditions are she must use the dagger to kill him before the dawn after the wedding. She doesn't, she will turn into sea foam. If she does, she gets to have her mermaid life back. She will become a mermaid again. So gives her an interesting choice, and she chooses. This story, I'm going to come back to what she chooses in a second, but this story is about choice. She chooses to go to the sea witch and ask for legs. She then later makes a choice about what to do when he makes another choice. First, she lets him make his own choice. She doesn't guilt him in or anything like that. This thing is about agency. And in the end, she chooses her own agency in that she does not kill him. She turns into sea foam, and then that would be it. But it's not, because she finds herself, instead of dissolving into nothing, she finds herself being lifted up into the air, and there she meets air spirits. And they tell her, well, we are air spirits. We have about 300 years. And in that time we help humans. We are around them and we are help to lift them up a little bit, give them a little bit of fresh air, literally sometimes. And if we, after 300 years, we get a chance to ascend to heaven. So her choice, her journey from the first moment she heard about souls to becoming human, and then making a choice of not doing the mermaid thing by killing the one she loves, she ascends to heaven. I don't know how much more beautiful can you make a story. I mean, goosebumps. Seriously. I do see why that is hard to fit into a Disney thing.
Musical.
in a Disney movie, but I think it would have been perfectly okay when you said, okay, let's just not make this into a Disney franchise thing.
But mermaids.
And then so the question is, can you do this story at all without doing the souls thing? And you sort of think, you really can't. Yes, you can. Because they did it. The Czech Republic in 1976. They did it. They went and got the story and they did it. I'll have to start a little earlier because there was an earlier version which I very recently see, Japanese version, which I will come back to. And this is why I have made a spreadsheet with all the different things that the different versions did. I have found the Japanese version, 1975 animation. The Czech version, 1976, came out in November. There's a Russian version, also 76. All these things are on YouTube. However, and this is why I'm actually mentioning the Russian version is very forgettable and not very important. However, it has exactly the same name and exactly the same date as the Czech version. So you will run into it when you look it up because it comes up first in the search. So if you have that girl, that's the Russian version. But if you have that girl, that's the Czech version. Now the Russian version, I think I'm going to start with the Russian version first, because they go off story pretty quickly. However, they do actual swimming. It's the only, of all the versions, it's the only one that has actual swimming people in the water going flip with tail. I think they got the synchronous swimmers out because they have like 5 people doing a little synchronous swimmy thing. It's not long, so if you want to watch like the first 5-10 minutes of that one, you can, but they go off story pretty quickly. They had the same problem that Disney had, the soul. What are you going to do with that? And they actually solve it pretty simply by saying that she's not looking for a soul, but she's looking for a heart. And then when the witch, who is not at all a sea witch, but she's a land witch, she's just the innkeeper who happens to also be a witch, tells her, I can give you a heart, but you do realize you're going to get your heart broken, right? And basically that's the best bit of this thing. The only thing that was actually interesting is that they have a lot of extras. They have a lot of people and costumes. And so you see a lot of faux medieval life as depicted by communist Russia in 76. In Soviet Russia, yes. It's not bad. There's the version that's on YouTube is subtitled in English, Russian original. It's okay.
But it's forgettable?
It's forgettable. So, the Japanese version is more interesting because of the ones that I have, that one is the earliest. It is animation. Also, version on YouTube. The version physical quality is just atrocious. It's the American dub, and actually watched that one first, and then I managed to find pretty quickly a Japanese original, much better quality picture. Helps if it's better quality picture. But it is 1975 Japanese animation. This is before they got good at it, because the start of them getting good at it was 1979. So they're just a smidgen before that. They have a start of it, but it's not great yet. It is actually a cinema movie, not a TV movie. So it is letterbox, and they try to do a more on screen than they would have done for television. It sets the story very strongly in Denmark. It starts with pictures of actual footage of 1975 Denmark, of people walking in Copenhagen round, and in the animation the ship has a Danish flag. She is living in a sea that has icebergs floating. There's whales. They mean this to be in the sea around Denmark. And there is another girl, comes from a country that they call Sumio, but I think they meant Sami, which is Finland, because she's across the water, so the other princess is Finnish. I think that's what they mean, and I think it's just a mistake in how the Japanese heard it. I did watch the Japanese version as well, so I had the English soundtrack and the Japanese original, because I wanted to hear a couple of things what they did with the sea foam, which was interesting. In the original story, the grandma tells her about the story, which of course Japanese is going to have the grandma in it, because duh. She also has no bra. The boobies are out, which is in animation, which is not that detailed. It doesn't really matter, but yeah, they're out. I'm going to come back to the Japanese version in a second, because I'm going to want to come back to the Czech version first. I watched that in 1980 and 82. 84. It was on television a lot. It was one of those. It's made for cinema as such, but it is a 4:3 view. But they already made them that way because they were meant to. In Czechoslovakia at the time was Soviet region, and they were made to be shown everywhere. So any old cinema should be able to show them, so they try to make them as simple as possible in how they would be shown. So letterbox, forget that. It was always 4:3 and therefore goes great on television. And German television, it was popular. This one and the Cinderella. But they did a whole series of all the Grimm and all the Andersen and anything else they could find that was fairy tale related. They did them quite fast, I think. But this one is one of the famous one. This one and the Cinderella. So it has the one that I have seen is one of the German soundtrack. This is legitimately a German soundtrack. It is a dub, but it is a legitimate dub. That's always been associated with this movie in this way, and people know it this way. So the information I could find was on the German Wikipedia, because the Germans, they love this one. And of course, by extension, the Netherlands is next to Germany. We got all these television things on the Dutch, on the German television. We get straight from the cable. We get the German channels in German, no subtitles, nothing, just German. And so watching them like a whole bunch of times, this one was on a lot. And so, but then after a while you stop watching because other stuff happens, and I'm a big girl now. And watching it again yesterday, because it's on YouTube if you want to see it. It's I didn't check the quality of the English subtitles, but there are English subtitles, so let's say the quality of the spoken language is not that high, but it doesn't need to be. On the face of it, it looks like this is not high-end anything, but rewatching it now, it is so tightly written. They do so much with just a little bit. One of the big problems they had is the Russian version. They had some swimmers, but they had to keep it short because it was very complicated to film underwater. Here they decided, we're not doing that. What we're doing is we want a nice long sequence of life underwater. Andersen wrote a lot about life underwater. We want to see all of that. So we're going to do it differently. We're going to give her fins, and because it's so cumbersome and complicated, we're just going to give her a look. And they gave her a look with I'm going to show it here, with the hair, dress, and the blue makeup, and then every underwater scene where they move, they filmed in slow motion. So you get this underwater look without actually having to do underwater stuff. And basically half the movie is set underwater. It is so simple. And like just do slow motion and make everything blue. And that's actually in Andersen. It actually says in Andersen in its description that the life underwater is strangely blue because of the filtered water. So they just put blue lights on it. They gave the entire nation of mermaids a certain look. I think they had like 3 or 4 bowls, because in the original story each princess comes up, but that's a little bit much. They'll have like 6 princesses go up and have a bowl for each one, but they have like a bowl for the previous princess, and then they have a bowl for her, and then they have another bowl where she is going to marry the merman of the Sargasso Straits. And she's very quiet because, again, in Andersen, she said that she was literally, the mermaid is quiet and thoughtful. This mermaid is quiet and thoughtful. Stuff happens around me, and she sort of goes, I need to think about that. And people say this. Her intended says a lot of things, and she sort of goes, And it's very hard to play it, but they do it so beautifully. And the only thing they added, because they took something out, which I'll come back to in a second, but they added something in. They added the lore of the story of what happened to the mother, because in Andersen's story there's the father, who's the king, and there's the grandmother, but where's the mother? And here they do the story. but they do it in a way that Hollywood would never do it. They do it in little bits. There is an antechamber that's said to have a window to the world of humans, and so she's interested. But she comes in, and it turns out there is a statue of a mermaid, a mermaid statue of a mermaid. So not fins, not anything like that, but. And then she sort of goes, oh, and then the father comes and says, well, this is a statue of your mother. I'm sort of upset that you came here, but I understand that you came here. It was forbidden, but okay. And he could have made a whole brouhaha about it, but he doesn't. Nobody, they do a completely different way of doing it. And there are questions, and slowly over time, the questions about the mother are answered in without drawing a lot of attention to it. The grandma tells a story about her time when she went to the service and saw a prince herding some animals. It's obviously a shepherd, but she didn't know that. And then the shepherd looked, and the grandma ran away frightened, because that's what mermaids supposed to do. And then when our mermaid comes to the sea witch to ask for legs, she offers in exchange the one thing that she has from her mother, which was a stone to quiet storms, and magical stone, and that would work. But the sea witch says, I already have one of those, because there was another one, and that belonged to the mother, and the sea witch has it. Ah. And as you, if you're a young kid, this story is going to go over your head. But me, grown woman, we know what happened to the mother. The father is upset with the human world because it took the mother away. And what happened is that these... the one thing they left out of this version, because it is a communist Soviet version, if you will, and one of the things they don't do in communist Soviet times was religion. So they left out the souls. But what do you have left if you take out the souls? They left in the agency. She chooses to be interested in something other than her contemporaries are. She chooses to be interested in human things, fascinated more than interested. She's weirdly fascinated in this version. And as she learns of what it could be like, she wants to see it. Then, and this is why this is tightly written, for her 16th birthday. In the original story, each mermaids will go up to the surface and see the world and then come back. In this version, because she is his favorite daughter, he has a big party for her, and in the form of a storm. He is the king of the seas, and he brings the storm. And he organizes a storm, and in that there is a beautiful ship with a prince on board and a party. You gotta. I mean, I've got it here on the thing. You got to have the fireworks and the party. Check. So they do the fireworks and the party. On board the ship is a beautiful prince, and the king of the seas drowns the entire ship. It lets it be crashed on the rocks, because that is what mermaids do. Also, kings of the sea do the same thing. And then the mermaid sneaks off and goes and rescues the prince. And the father sort of goes, why did you do that? Okay, it's up to you if you want to do that. I mean, I gave him and the entire contents to you. If you want gonna save him, it's fine by me. Because they are soulless. Because even though this is not about souls, it makes clear that these sea dwellers are quite different from humans. And when she comes on the land, and is introduced into the beauties of the land. And I think that's another thing that this particular version does really well. It showed the sea life, and now it showed land life. And this is not a Danish prince. He is, I think, Mediterranean. So the Czech Republic is I have the world over here. Czech Republic. Hold on. It's not anymore. Czechoslovakia, and it's now the Czech Republic. Somewhere over here. I'll put in a big. But as you can see, this is the Mediterranean, and so they place it sort of in faux Mediterranean country, and he is the Kingdom of the South. He later on is introduced as the Prince of the Kingdom of the South. And he is an eligible bachelor, and everybody has sent somebody. Everybody has sent a princess and a couple of attendants, including black people. There's some black people in this, which is completely, if you think about it, the Czech Republic now and then is as white as it comes. I mean, this is white central. And yet they found some Asian people, and they found some black people to be the princesses of foreign lands to come and woo the Prince of the South. So, yeah. So that's beautiful. It's beautiful in the simplicity of the things that it's beautiful. So if you're going to watch a mermaid movie, you expect to see tails. No, you don't get tails, but you get this instead. But the story goes the same. He was rescued by the mermaid, but he doesn't know it, and he was then secondary rescued by a beautiful young lady who then promptly disappeared because she was the princess of another realm. And while he is completely enamored with our mermaid, human mermaid, once the other princess shows up, and this is a little thing that I didn't know at the time, and I think the Peanut Gallery doesn't know at all, which I'm going to tell. The actress who plays the other princess, who is on the German Wikipedia as the human princess, the land princess. So you have the sea princess, which is our mermaid, and you have the land princess. They have the same last name because they are sisters. Peanut Gallery really didn't know that. She's actually the girl who played the Cinderella, the one Cinderella everybody loves from the same series. So she is quite beautiful. So I understand that the thing about the people in all these series of films is that they are beautiful people, but they are believable beautiful. They are not impossibly beautiful. And I appreciate that. I think that's one of the reasons why it became so popular, is because they are believably beautiful, and you understand why some people are interested in some people, and why the prince, who is definitely interested in the mermaid, is also more interested in the other girl, you know? And it leaves her with the same problem at the end, and in this case the father comes with a dagger because the simpler that way. With the dagger to her, the choice: you can kill him and come back to the sea, or not. But because there is no soul at stake here, they gave it a little bit of an extra push in saying that the father says, no matter what, I'm going to destroy the ship on which the newlyweds are, and they will die anyway, so might as well do it. And she doesn't do it anyway. She lets him live, and her. So she has a chance to kill both of them, and she doesn't. And then when the storm is about to start, that would kill the newlyweds and the entire ship. Instead of turning into foam, she turns into beautiful flowers that bloom on the water and calm the water. and the waters are calm, and that's the end of the story. And it gives her her full agency. It gives her her agency in making a choice of becoming human, and what then do I do with that? And even if I live in an atheist world where I have no soul, what choices do I make? Her agency. And she gives him his agency in letting him marry the woman he wants to marry. She's not pushing him into anything he doesn't want to do. That's what the story was about, and that's the core of the story as Anderson wrote it. Even though the Christian element is missing from it, it is still that story. This is the best version, by far. And then Disney comes and makes it a princess story, must marry prince story. But it gets worse. Oh yeah. Because we're going back to the Japanese version. For those who remember the Disney version from way back when, it had in it a boy fish that swims with her. It had a crab majordomo who does stuff. She's home late and that gets her into trouble. The evil witch is very evil and has tentacles. And these are actually all things from the Japanese version. These are not. I think, and with bells on, that the Disney sold this Japanese version. There's also references about the mother being dead because of human hooligans, human shenanigans.
Or because of her wanting to see humans.
It's also in here. Yeah. And even right at the ending, because I'm going to come to the ending for the Japanese version in a second, but at the ending she says, the witch will come for me to collect me back up. And that's exactly what happened in the Disney version. She comes and to collect her. The Japanese version, however, is better in one respect. They do the story. They do the ending. Japanese are also not Christian, not interested in souls in a Christian kind of way. However, they are Shintoists and Zen Buddhists. And Shintoism sort of says that everything has a spirit. And Zen Buddhism talks about the way your road to go, the path you take.
Yeah,
enlightenment. And this version, which goes pretty much the same, she goes to the witch to ask to very scary witch, and it was very scary. But the witch itself is, it causes the first storm. That's the storm causer, but she's not evil in the way that Ursula was in the Disney version. The witch is neutral. It's a force of nature. Evil in a way that a tiger is evil or a bear is evil. You don't want to meet one in person, but they're not evil intrinsically. So she's a causer of storms. She's a dark force of the underworld, and that's why the mermaid goes there. And mermaid asked for it herself. The conditions. Let me go check because I made a list. So of the hurt leg, the hurting feet, they skip that part. But she gets the tail. The conditions of the marry or die moment is added to it is that she can never come back to the sea. She can't even take a swim. I understand. That's understandable, yeah. And she has lots of time to marry the prince, but if he marries somebody else, then she will die. And in the American version, they talk about the sea foam because that is in the Anderson. but in the Japanese version they talk about bubbles. And that is indeed what happens at the end when she makes the choice of not killing him in a very dramatic scene. It was really nicely done. Not kill him or her and turn into sea foam, which were bubbles, which present themselves as bubbles. That's why I wanted to see the Japanese version, because you can see bubbles, but they say sea foam, and they're sort of going, it's not quite the same thing. So I wanted the Japanese version. And in the Japanese version, she says, the witch will come for me. And that's why I think... and she meant it in a transitory... the prophecy will come for me, the future will come for me. So, because she didn't physically. And she transcends, and then that version starts in Copenhagen with actual pictures, actual moving pictures of Copenhagen. It ends again in Copenhagen with a picture of the statue of the mermaid.
The Czechian doesn't?
They never leave
Because
Prague.
I've seen that. I saw that version. I saw the one where I mean, this is like 30 years ago, but I saw it where the final view that you see is the Little Mermaid statue in Copenhagen.
But that's at the end of animation. Do you remember any of it?
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
There will have been a German dub of it as well. We'll probably have seen a German dub of it. It's not a bad version. It's not a bad version at all. The like I said, the animation is a little bit early. However, if you get a really good print of it, it's pretty nice. But they do the story. They just do the story. But the Shinto Zen Buddhist version of the story. So, yeah, you can do this without souls. Not a problem. So, why the hell do we get... So, the list of stuff on the Disney version is the one on the one and not on the other. I have a whole page on it. One of the, because I now saw all of 4 of these in a short span of time. And the Japanese version I actually saw twice. And I was going, do I actually want to... I actually had a moment where I was saying, do I want to rewatch the Japanese version, but now in Japanese? Or do I want to watch the Disney animation? The Disney animation, I sort of went, let's go watch the Japanese one first. One of the things when I started watching the Disney, after all of these simpler versions, in visually simpler, but contently better, is that the Disney version is really much prettier, but it's so over the top relation with the king and the evil witch and I wrote it down, booby shells. She's got booby shells. The booby shells actually stay on when she gets legs. She still has booby shells. She's naked everywhere else, but she still has booby shells. And then there's the red hair. I understand. I'm sure they made a list of. We already had a blonde one, which was the Sleeping Beauty. Cinderella is dark blonde. Sleeping Beauty is high blonde, and then we have Snow White has black hair. So what do we have left? I understand. And the Japanese original, which they're trying to pretend that didn't take a lot of cue from. She's blonde. Legitimately blonde because she's Danish. She's in Denmark. So this one is set in faux Caribbean, I think. Actually, it's not very clear in this version where it's set. The only moment it's clear when you get the major domo, Sebastian, the crab, who does a Caribbean song. I'll come back to that in a sec because... So they stole the crab from the Japanese version. They stole the little fish, who is now called Flounder. He was called Fritz in the other one. He was a little dolphin in the other one, and he's a little guppy in this one, a little goldfish. The the scene with the pipe where she blows into the pipe, thinking that's supposed to be a human whistle thing, but it's a pipe that they stole from the Japanese version. The fact that the evil witch, the only thing that didn't steal from her is that she's fat. In a Disney version, she's fat. In the other one version, she's very, very thin. But the coloring is the same. She has a almost lilac white body and black clothing. She has tentacles. They're a little bit harder to see because she is harder to see. And she has 2 eels. And that's as the Japanese version has 2 eels, so they have 2 eels. The even call in the Japanese version, I think it's actually in the Anderson. There's a description in the original Anderson of the witch, and she has pets, and she calls them like my precious, or my little precious things, and yeah. So there's no grammar in this one. It's a big problem that there's no grammar. There's also no souls, and there's no 300 years. This story is about a girl falling in love with a mermaid girl falling in love with a human prince, and a witch trying to come between them, and suddenly you had an interesting story that is now not an interesting story anymore, because it's now just normal. Under the Sea. Under the Sea. Anderson wrote a lovely description of stuff of mermaid life, and what we get in Disney is Under the Sea. And there's so much wrong with it. I mean, I understand that people love this song. And there's nothing wrong with the song itself. But you have a crab singing in a Caribbean style, which is a place where slaves were brought to a lot, about how to conform to what you are. Because that's what he's trying to tell Ariel. Conform, become, under the sea. You're supposed to be under the sea, and this is good. Yay, yay, happy. Apart from the cultural appropriation, the message is conform. The message is altogether conform, because she conforms in the end to what we think is important, being human, and marrying the prince. And I remember in 1980 something or other, it must be sometime after I saw, or at least got the gist of the entire story, because at the time in 89 everybody was talking about Little Mermaid. So it was the most famous thing. And so I got the gist of the story from that, at least from just osmosis. Not having I still don't think I saw it, but I got the gist of the information. And I was at the time, there were like a whole bunch of wannabes in the form of children picture books and stuff like that. And I ran into one of these picture books sometime later, at any time at some point. I like pictures, so the picture book. And this picture book had obviously trying to piggyback on the Disney success, but it wasn't Disney, because the mermaid was blonde in that, because they wanted to differentiate at least that much. And it was like 10 pictures doing the entire story in 10 pictures, with big picture and then some little text in big letters on the side. You know this kind of picture book. And I come to the end, and the last picture is not of them standing on a prow going off into the sunset being married. No. It is him underwater with her, being married by the king of the sea. I don't remember if he had a tail. He had some extra fins, so they gave him some extra fins. And I thought, yeah, that would have been the right way to do it. He chooses to go with her instead of she with him, because it is so boring and normal if she goes with him. She conforms to him. What kind of message is that? What kind of agency is that? Andersen, in 1837, a man, thoroughly Christian, in a 19th century world, gave his girl more agency than Disney in 1989.
Disney also, it also basically says that not only you have to go with your man, but you will be cut off from your original family and complete life. Everybody, so not just your family, your friends, the social, everything, which is literally the message that women have been getting for millennia, is like, you go over there and we don't know you anymore.
Yeah, and Andersen gave a different message, and this is why I was so angry with that Little Mermaid, because it fundamentally undermines every ounce of agency that Andersen gave into his story, because that is what the core story is about, agency. And whether or not it is about souls or love, it is about agency, about making your own choices. And they take in the Little Mermaid, they also take his choice away, because there is a moment, because this story goes, for the people who haven't seen it, the two people who haven't seen it, in this version there is no other princess. The evil witch, who is very evil, took as payment, her name is Ariel's voice in payment, and uses it to come to change herself into a pretty girl and then come to the prince with the voice, and the prince remembers the voice. And it would have been interesting if at that moment there would have been the mermaid who doesn't talk, the human mermaid, and the evil but evil pretty witch with the voice, and he would have to choose. The problem is they don't do that. What they do is have the witch immediately enchant him, and he's just enchanted. So there's no choice, there's no agency. He gets to do absolutely nothing at all. Basically, he only does one thing at the beginning, is that when the first ship hits the rocks and he's on board, he rescues the dog before himself and almost drowns himself, and that's why she rescues him. So that was nice. But one of the other things that is in here is the contract between the witch. So the witch is very, very evil, whereas in the original story she's just a force of nature, and they just are in a way, like a tiger is dangerous, but they are. And here she's just such over the top evil for no reason, because they took away so much of the story. They had to put in something else, so they pick up on the witch and pick on the witch, basically make her evil where she isn't. And in the end, it turns out, and this is in this version, now confirming that this is in this version, because we were thinking about it later, is that once the whole thing is over, and right at the end, before Ursula's death, the mermaid is turned back into a mermaid, and Eric now knows, and then Ariel has to go back to the sea, and Eric sits moping on the land, and Ariel is moping in the sea, and then the king decides to give her a tail after all, meaning that he had always had the power to do so, which is another story killer, I think, because if the king had the ability to give that, why go to a sea witch? Because sea witch really, really scary. Because that's why they're setting it up, because Dad wouldn't approve, because there's this over-the-top problem with Dad. It doesn't need it. God. And then the last thing is that in almost any of the other versions, Mermaid has no name. In the original story, Mermaid has no name. She has a name in the Japanese version because they're doing all the sisters, and then you have to have names. But basically, she's the only one who has a name. She has a name, but the prince is called Prince, and Grandma is called Grandma. So the guppy has a name. The dolphin has a name. He's named Fritz. So 2 named characters in that, Fritz and Marina. She's called Marina. And when I saw the original Disney version, why is she named Ariel? Ariel. Why Ariel? And I think it is because because they do realize they are making a mess of things, or maybe a homage to the original, I don't know, but in the end, in the Anderson version, she turns into this air spirit. Ariel. Air spirit. And I think maybe that's why she's called Ariel. It has no other reason, because why would any water sprite be called Ariel? So this is a mess, and I have a bunch of things that came from the Japanese version. Just like the pipe, I have that here. I said that already, but loves me, loves me not. She does this thing with the flower. It's straight from the Japanese version. The lady in waiting at the palace. She's getting dressed by a lady in waiting is obviously the same one from the Japanese version. I like the one in the Japanese version better because the Japanese animation is even more over the top in a way. So when this slight, very naked, a blonde girl is dropped on the beach and he comes and goes and takes a look, the Japanese, the lady in waiting, the nurse, comes. She's huge. She comes and says, I know what to do. And she takes off her apron and wraps around the apron around the girl and scoops her up. And this lady is huge. So she scoops up this full-sized mermaid, human mermaid, as a little baby. And just... So, I mean, I love that. If it wasn't for the fact that the Disney version is animation is... But that's not enough. It's not enough. If they'd done the Japanese script, or they've just done what Anderson did, it would have been so much beautiful. And that under the sea, apart from all the problems that is with the under the sea sequence, is that it takes away the chance to see actual mermaids, castles and stuff. I mean, even the Japanese version, which is even shorter than the Disney version, shows the castle, the under the sea castle, and they just, because of the Song of Under the Sea, which takes 3.5 minutes, you get that much less to see of under the sea life. And I was thinking about that, why do that, other than jolly music? I think it has to do with, this is 1989, and Disney had been having a bad time, because animation is very expensive and it wasn't always paying back. Their big animations, the ones that made money, was many, many years ago. And so starting this project, and I know this was the start of the second wave of Disney greats, and I think the reason that they didn't want to do too much animation of actual mermaids versus fish, Disney had, apart from always making animations, which was very expensive, so very, very piecemeal, they could do only very few. they made a lot of nature films. That's what they actually make their money on in the 40s, 50s, and 60s is nature films, which were a lot less expensive to produce and much more easy to show as like an hour of fishes and an hour of birds and stuff like that and places. And they had a lot of footage of fishes and crab and stuff like that, so they could animate that very easily because they have lots of examples. And they didn't do at that time motion tracking the way we do now. What they would do, and especially so any animation before this time, is take for the Snow White, they had the lady actually act all the stuff, and they just traced it to get the flow. There is actually a sequence of Christopher Robin walking, and it's the same scene, same sequence as Mowgli walking. That's when he looks so very boyish. It's because it's an actual boy. So they would have been confident in how to draw fish, but how to draw mermaids, maybe less confident. This combined with the fact that they got a lot of flack earlier on Fantasia. There's a sequence of mermaids and centaurs, and they got a lot of flack on that. So maybe they thought, how about we can gradually animate fishes and crabses, but not mermaids. So we'll downplay the mermaids and upplay the fishes. But that does mean that the sequence of mermaids is better in the 76 version, and a lot longer and more satisfying in the Czech version than it is in the Disney version. Which brings us to the remake, which me and Peanut Gallery went to see, which are going to be in filming right now, this review, and you're going to see it. You've already seen it. So my conclusion is still, overall, is the Czech version is the most faithful version, even though it doesn't talk about souls. It's also surprisingly well written. But you have to keep in mind that it does not have the production monies that a Disney has. Keep that in mind and sit down, get your favorite beverage, enjoy the ride. It's beautiful. The music is also beautiful. We didn't even talk about the music, but there's music in it, and it's beautiful, but it's not Disney type beautiful. So don't expect that. But it's this best version by far. Still, it's the one I saw first, and it's still the best version. It's objectively the best version. And Disney, please do better. We'll see in the remake if they did better. And we'll do that now. So that's my opinion, and sticking to it.